Hi everyone, my name is Donna. I'm the owner of Bookkeeping Made Simple. Um, this is my final video for the year, actually. I thought about it this morning and decided that next week being the twilight zone, kind of between Christmas and New Year's, and it is always a bit of a twilight zone. The people that I want to reach are either going to be completely swamped because it's the end of the year, or they're going to be in the twilight zone along with me because it's the end of the year. So my next video will actually be on January 4th, and I'm not really sure what I'm going to talk about then, but I have a lot to discuss and a lot to kind of go over. These in the holiday season have been mostly, you know, personal stuff, just giving people a chance to get to know me and discuss, you know, what real life is like. You know? Starting in January, I will be having a webinar once a week. I will be scheduling that and putting it on my Facebook page, Bookkeeping Made Simple, on Twitter. My handle is Donna_H67. And on LinkedIn. So I will have it posted on my business page on LinkedIn, my business page on Facebook, and on my Twitter. So feel free to check those out. I will be posting probably 15 minutes before I go live. It'll be consistent. It's one of the things that I'm really working on for 2021 is this real consistency in getting you know, keeping the promises that I make to myself. And that's a really huge thing. I've talked about it before. I've talked about it on Facebook when I literally remembered at 9 o'clock at night that I hadn't put out a video, and I had promised that I would put out a video. So yeah, you got one of me in my ugly nightgown. So tomorrow's Christmas Eve. We will be open. We will not be open tomorrow. We will not be open on Christmas Day. We're taking a 4-day weekend, 2 weeks in a row. If I'm already working on one of your projects, work will continue to go forward. You don't need to worry about that. And then we are open December 28th, 29th, and 30th, close the 31st, close January 1st, and then it's the weekend, and then we open again on January 4th. So a minimal week this week, minimal week next week. We'll only be open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then January 4th, along with everybody else, we are back to normal hours. And I really sincerely hope it is like everybody else. I don't want to talk too much about politics. It's divisive. It's this is kind of that time of year where it's really critical to start thinking about what you want to do for next year. This is a great time to start planning and to start thinking ahead a little bit. I have my planners and all kinds of things, but I'm really working this year, being 2021, on habits. In a lot of it is less about habits, because if you get too deeply into habits, you can habit yourself out of having a life. I'm a firm believer, and my boyfriend is proof of this. Everybody dies, but not everybody really lives. And you don't want to habit yourself out of really living. That's why I think it's important to take vacations. I have not been very good about that. It's been because I have not, you know, when you're a young single mother, there's not a lot of money to go around. But we're getting better about that, at least if it's, you know, a weekend retreat, or right now we're limited on how far we can go due to circumstances beyond our control. It is because we're waiting on a heart transplant, not me personally. But you know, when you have an organ transplant, you have to be concerned about how far you are from the hospital that's going to be doing that transplant. But as soon as that is done, You can I don't know this. As soon as that's done, we will be traveling quite a bit more. We have the ability to be digital nomads. And my youngest turns 18 in March. And honestly, you know, once he's launched, there's nothing keeping us in Utah, because the work I do is all done remotely. It has always all been done remotely. I have always wanted to be a digital nomad. I've always wanted to be able to kind of create my own life. And some of it was because my kids were little and I was homeschooling, and it was important to me to be able to do that at the time. And kind of looking at the world situation today, I think that's going to explode. But that's a talk for another day. It's important to design your life rather than letting life happen to you, which is really kind of where I was going with that. I chose the field that I went into because I actually wanted to be a computer programmer way back when, pre-Microsoft. That's what I wanted to do. And unfortunately, or fortunately, that field changes a lot. And I mean a lot, very rapidly. So I took computer science in college, and then got married, had kids, got divorced, remarried, had kids, moved to Germany, moved back to the States, got divorced, moved to Utah, started to go back to school, and went, oh my hell, this is not the field that I started to study. Things have changed a bit. And so I decided to pick something that maybe hadn't changed quite so much. It still was the same work environment. I am, how do I put this? I'm not necessarily an introvert, but I'm not necessarily an extrovert. I really like working peacefully at home. But I also like getting out. So I'm one of those, I find a lot of chaos in the workplace to be distracting, and the work that I like to do requires a lot of thought. So I'm not a salesperson. I'm really horrible at that. No, that's not true. I'm very good at explaining what the benefits of what I do are. I'm just not one of the sales types, and you all know those types. I believe in what I do. I always have. If I didn't, I wouldn't do it. And I am you know, I present it to my prospects, and if they like it, they sign up, and if they don't, they don't. So when I got into accounting, I decided that it was time to design the life that I wanted. And in some ways, at certain points in your life, you can't really design the life you want. Life happens. You end up with, you know, little kids and no husband, and trying to find a way to do what you want to do with your kids. On a very limited budget. And I was very, very blessed that I was able to work from home. Starting in about 2005 is when I started working from home. So this is nothing new to me. And then as my kids have gotten older, and it's really dawned on me, for those of you who don't know, I'm the oldest of 8. And then my oldest child is only 2 years younger than my youngest sibling. So I've always taken care of kids. And now for the first time in my life, I'm looking at my life and saying, my baby is grown. It's time for me to really think about what I want to do with my life, and to think about the things that you know, what can I do moving forward? And that was why I went back to college. as an older student. I figured that the time was going to pass whether I returned to school or not, and lo and behold, I have an exam and 2 papers to write, and I'm completely done with my degree, and will be starting my MBA. So it's never too late. Number one, design the life you want. Even if life gets in the way, design the life you want, and you have kind of a goal to work for. I'm trying to set certain habits, but not at the expense of habiting myself out of living my life. I want a lot of adventure. I'm a very adventurous person. I was laughing last night with my daughter and my boyfriend saying, well, I'm afraid of heights, but I want to go skydiving and hot air ballooning. I am not a fan of spiders, even though my father's an entomologist, but you know, I'll pet a tarantula. I really like to look at the things that I'm afraid of and make sure that even if I don't overcome them, that I make sure that those don't rule my life. And that's just one of those things that's been really important to me. I don't want fear or lack of funds or any of the things that tend to hedge us around, or habits to end up controlling my life. I want to be the person in control. So yeah, so starting January 4th, you should be looking for a video every work day, so 5 days a week, and most of them may very well be this kind of stream of consciousness. I'm just talking about what seems to be important to me that day, because you never know, it might resonate with someone. And then several of them will be scripted to an extent and discussing specific topics in accounting and in business. I think it's critical, especially as we move forward into the new year, especially given how insane 2020 has been, that as business owners, we have very specific goals, and that we have Plan B, C, D, E, F, G, that we have plans on, you know, what if the world ends, and plans for what if everything goes exactly the way I want it to go. And we need to really have a very positive mindset about it. I will leave to others. I have very strong beliefs, and I'm trying very hard not to talk about them too much as far as politics is concerned, because I really want to focus on what to do for your business to help your business grow. And I can't do that if I alienate half my audience, and it doesn't matter which half it is. So, but you know, think about, you know, what is the worst possible thing that can happen to my business? If you're a restaurateur, you've already been through that. What if it happens again? What if you're shut down again? How do you manage? How do you manage if you don't get government funds? And I think that's a really important thing to think about. And have a plan. I've talked about disaster planning in the past. I talked about it prior to the pandemic. You can look through my YouTube channel. It is Bookkeeping Made Simple on YouTube. I've talked about this before, and I want to kind of come back to disaster planning. So I will be talking about that quite a bit in January. I want to talk a bit about planning your year. And again, you want to have a plan B if everything goes wrong, but you want to focus on what if everything goes exactly the way you want it to go. What if you have so much money coming in that you can grow? What are your growth plans? Don't get wrapped up on where your business is today. Get wrapped up on where you want it to be. And I've talked to a lot of business owners over the past 15 years or so that have been so wrapped up in, well, today I can't do that, or today I don't have the managers that I think I need to grow. And instead of focusing on, well, I need to have people come in and I need to train them and I need to make sure they're trustworthy, and I need to have a plan to grow and have, maybe have more patients, or be active in more states, or have, a bigger team. They are very focused on, well, today I don't have the staff. If that's all you're focused on, you will never be able to move forward. If you do focus on, well, I'm thinking of a specific client. Well, I don't have a good manager for my one location, so I need to hire and train one so that I do have a manager, because a business owner, believe it or not, should not be the hardest working person in the business. I really don't think they should. They should not be doing the day-to-day operations of the business. The business owner, for the most part, should be focused on planning, projecting, budgeting, working towards, in other words, they should be working on their business, not in their business. They should be really thinking about, if I want to expand, what do I need to do? And who do I need to hire? What kind of person, not the specific person, but what kind of person do I need to hire? What kind of contingency plans do I need to have in place? How do I increase my revenue? How do I put money aside for a rainy day? What if it rains for a whole year like it did this year? That's what the business owner needs to be doing, because that's the only thing that's the one thing that only the business owner can do, is determine the direction of the business. And those plans do need to include, what if everything goes wrong? If I have a brick and mortar location, what if we're hit by a tornado, earthquake, hurricane, something that's going to put us, or the government, something that's going to put us out of business for possibly an extended period of time? 70% of businesses and up do not come back after a natural disaster. So we're looking at that. Do you have a contingency plan to either restart your business or to determine when to close it, which is something a lot of people are thinking about right now. When to close it, why to close it, and what to do next. You know, do you close your business, give it time to, you know, do something else for 9 months or a year, and then restart it so that you're not losing money? Yeah, those are all things that you need to really be thinking about, especially in 2020. And then you need to have a plan if you want to restart. You know, this is a year, and I know I'm saying this at the very end of the year, but it's really been, I kept thinking this couldn't possibly be happening, right? Like so many of the rest of us. But this is a time to really think about, what if this happens again? I'm hoping we will get laws passed that does not allow it to happen again, because it's devastating. It is absolutely devastating to small businesses, small business owners, to families. It's been devastating to hospitals in our area, and not in the way you think. What if it, you know, what if this does happen again? What if you do need to shut down for a whole year? What if you need to shut down, you know, that's a pretty extended period of time. As you determine, you know, your worst scenarios, and then you determine these benchmarks of, okay, if this happens, you know, if A then B, basically. If this happens, if we're hit by a tornado or a hurricane, none of those happen in Utah, by the way, but we did have an earthquake. You know, if something happens to the physical structure of my business, how do I recover? At what point do I say, okay, we're closing, at least for the duration? At what point do I say, okay, it's time to go back and restart the business? And then how do I restart? Because it's really not flipping a light switch. It is more like pushing a glacier. It takes a little bit. It takes quite a bit to build that momentum. What do you do to keep your face and name in front of people while you're closed, if you need to close? And on the other hand, you also need to plan for, how do I expand? That's one of the reasons that we are 100% remote. I have very, very little personal, physical face-to-face time with my clients. It's usually done over Zoom. It's always been like that, because one of the things that I've always thought about is, you know, natural disasters. I was raised in Seattle, and then we moved to the South when I was 14. And just before we moved, well, just like the year before we moved away from the Pacific Northwest, Mount St. Helens erupted. And that was a huge, huge deal. Lots of businesses closed. Lots of businesses were literally swept away. And, you know, living in Kentucky, we've had ice storms, we've had blizzards, we've had tornadoes, have friends in Florida where they've experienced hurricanes. So I know that, you know, anything can happen. I have friends in California that have experienced devastating earthquakes. Anything can happen. And so one of the things I wanted was, if something happens to me, I want my staff to be able to keep moving forward. I want my staff to be able to, you know, I really want to be able to say, well, I can't take your call, but call the main line. Someone who can help you will answer the phone. And I think that's absolutely critical. That person may live in northern Utah, or they may live in California, or they may live in Florida, or they may live in South Dakota. But we do work very closely as a team. And right now there's only a few of us. It's still a small business, but I do know that big companies have done that, where they have had means to immediately have their call centers routed out of a disaster zone and into people's homes, or call centers that were nowhere near the disaster zone, because they happened to have support in multiple places. They had warehouses across the country. And when you do that, instead of having a hub, as convenient as the hub is, when you have multiple hubs, then no matter what happens, you can stay in business. Okay? So 2021, I'll talk a lot about disaster planning. I'll talk about the lessons that we've learned from 2020. I will try to do it. I will be talking quite a bit about planning, especially in January. That'll be the theme. Should have been the theme for December, I guess. And again, I will be producing a webinar that I will be hosting once a week. I will have it consistent, and the information will be on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, so please feel free. Also Google my business. So that information should be pretty readily available, even if I'm talking to myself. That's it for today. Here. I have got to stop talking. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I will see you in 2021. Have a great, wonderful holiday season.